Hello, Sonicstate, here at Superbooth 2021, and I'm here with Ed Eagan.
Yeah.
And we're at the Haken audio booth, and wow, something really exciting to show really here. Actually, before we show it, let's just talk a little bit of background now.
Okay.
So, the Eagan Matrix is the kind of the sound engine in the Haken Continuum.
Correct.
And we got the big Continuum Fingerboard over here. And then that sound engine, which is it's all about expressivity.
It's about a marriage between a performance, like a controller, and a sound engine that you can use to bring out the best of that controller.
Okay.
So yeah, that was the original reason why we made the sound engine. We wanted to have a synth engine that was automatically set up to play, because originally when the Continuum came out, it had no sound engine.
Ah, okay, interesting. So then in the evolution of the fingerboard, which has gone through a bunch of different iterations now, from the larger fingerboard to the, I guess is the medium one, through to the
Continuum Mini.
Continuum Mini.
Yeah.
But then, in a really unexpected turn of events, it turns up inside the Osmose.
Yeah, we got approached by
Expressive
E. Yeah, okay. They were looking for a sound engine for their upcoming Osmose. In fact, even before the Osmose had a name, through contacts that we had with them and through Christophe Duquesne, they approached us about putting our sound engine in their keyboard, and so we were very excited about that, very honored, frankly, and. But in the course of doing that, so we ended up designing new PCBs and some new iterations. And so during that time, we said, well, it might be interesting to dive into other things. And we were trying to think of a product that because we were in sort of that design phase, where could we go? And we don't want to really step on the Osmose, because we want to go into some other aspect of the musical world. And we thought of course, Eurorack. And that was the idea to, in spite of us being a performance controller instrument manufacturer, this sound engine was so deep and so vast, and Expressive E had noticed that it was deep and vast, that we said, well, let's apply it to other things. And so we've decided to make a Eurorack module.
And here it is, and this is what you're showing at Superbooth 2021.
Yeah.
Haken Audio, Eagan Matrix in Eurorack. How about that? Wow, so gosh, lots to cover here, so where to start? So, essentially, if you can, in a nutshell, what is the sound engine? What are the kind of key aspects of the sound engine?
Well, a key aspect of this sound engine for our performance controller is that it's a modular system. And I was always inspired by the patchability of early EMS synthesizers. So when I went to university, they had a Synthi 100 and a VCS3. And I always loved the Matrix patch points. I loved it because in a little area, it encapsulates this whole grid. I mean, some people find it quite foreign, because when you're tracing a patch, you're going from source up to a destination, back to a source, and so you end up with all these little squares of path for the signal flow. But I found it quite intuitive. Yeah. And what we decided to do, and was fundamental to the design, normally in a matrix like that, you have a pinpoint, and so when you patch an oscillator into a filter, you just basically connect them like you connect the cable. But what we did was we put in a mathematical formula, and the formula is the expression of your finger movement on the surface. So at any point, you can influence the way a patch flows from A to B by what your finger is doing. And every single patch point can have different formulas. And so what you end up with is this whole sort of organic system that your fingers are right inside the matrix itself. And that's we're very proud of our controllers. They have the feedback loop inside this. The sound generation is short, so you're reacting with your fingers, but you're deep inside the sound design.
Nice.
That's where the engine came from. And we've taken that same philosophy and applied it into the Eurorack end of it. Yeah.
Right, so I mean, straight away, I'm kind of very curious about how you interact with it without obviously not wedded to these controllers that we've been talking about. Yeah. I can see we've got quite a lot of patch points going on here. Yeah. How would you anticipate people using this, or how indeed have you got this set up?
Well, yeah, let me explain what all the patch points are and what the interface is like. It is a digital system, and consequently it has the ability to have presets, much like our synthesizer, the Continuum and the Continuum Mini and the Osmose. So the idea for this is the Eagan Matrix can be, if you're designing presets, it can be quite daunting. You know, it's a little bit odd for people who are used to more of a traditional subtractive synthesis type design. We've got some quite esoteric modules in there. We have, of course, just oscillators and filters and multipliers and that sort of thing. But we also have resonant banks and a thing called spectral sets, which does this emulation of, like it's a granular approach to sample manipulation on a certain level. We have kinetic models, and we have the resonant banks that are in many different forms. So it can be daunting. I can understand it can be daunting to get into programming.
Yeah, right.
So really what we're going to do with this module is we've allowed access points that are essentially programmable macros. We've always had these macros. And every single preset will have optimized mappings within for the control of these 4 macros. And you'll also have the ability to use control voltage. Those are control, by the way. And then control voltage for each individual voices that you play. Because it is, in essence, when you go into the Eurorack world, you kind of think of these things as monophonic things. Like you have, even though it sounds big, but it's essentially this monophonic driven things, and people make subsystems within larger systems. But in a smaller system like this one, you think of it as monophonic, but this is actually a polyphonic synthesizer as well.
Right. So let's just talk about a little bit of those details then. So I mean, as a polyphonic synthesizer, how many voices?
It has 8 voices.
8 voices.
Yes.
And each of those voices is a completely individually articulatable voice.
Exactly, like a polysynth. Yeah. So you know, you're using a common set of parameters, and you're usually modifying each voice according to like pitch and how much pressure you put into it. Yeah.
Are you able to port presets from the Continuum and from the Osmose? Will they run the same patches?
They run all these units that we have. They run on the same editor, and the editing of the patches is exactly the same. So you could design a sound on a Continuum, modify it and play it on an Osmose if you want, or you could play it on a Continuum Mini, or you could play it in the Eagan Matrix.
Okay, great.
So we have a plethora of patches that we can. We're just starting to mine them for the Eagan Matrix, but what we found was, you know, when we went to the Mini, and of course even more so when we went to the Osmose, every interface requires a certain amount of tweaking, and there's certain capabilities. I think for people who start to play the Osmose, and if they play the Continuum at the same time, they'll realize that the same preset is, there's pluses and minuses and everything. So, you know, so what we're going to do with this one is design presets, and I don't want people to have to dive into the editor. So,
well, listen, speaking about the editor, then, so we can see that we've got MIDI in and MIDI out, and then is this USB?
It is USB MIDI.
And that's connected through to a computer?
Yeah, we have it connected here on a computer, and this computer right now is running the editor.
Okay.
Yeah.
And will the editor will it run on PC as
it's
well?
It's on PC. We built the editor in Macs, so whatever Cycling 74 supports, we support.
Okay, that's cool. So
which is interesting because I just heard they have a beta for M1 support too, which is very exciting.
Okay, really cool. So the editor then, yeah, great. So you can connect it, but disconnected. It
runs on its own. You can go through the library. You can peruse names. Okay. You can go there. We have a categorization system, so you can go into particular things like this is telling me this is user preset number 12. Within a preset, you'll have certain controls, and you can just look to see what the names of each control are and how they're labeled. So the idea with this thing is, with these macros and with the number of presets that we're going to have, it's not going to be necessary to have a MIDI connection at all. And that's that's kind of it's not within the Eurorack mandate. I think the thing is, you want to have immediate control. Yeah. You can immediately control these things by touching a control and then moving these faders. See?
Okay.
Whichever row that you're in. Yeah. So for instance, this one's going all the way down to all the way up.
Oh, right.
This is an offset to whatever you feed through the control voltage inputs.
So obviously, like, I guess a noticeable thing is maybe a lack of direct control on that. Is that because the way that the Eagan Matrix software works, it's looking for multiple real-time controllers?
There's that, and also if we wanted to extend that, you've noticed we've got this button matrix here in a single control. Yeah. If you want to extend that out into the Eurorack form, physically it just starts to get too big.
Too big.
Yeah,
right.
And so the kind of it's not very much trouble to do this. You know,
right.
So you know what you want to look at. So what's happening here is if I press on the lower row here, I'm looking at the note information. So it's giving me all the, these 4 displays are for the W, X, Y, and Z controls.
Right.
If I push on the second one, now I've gone into the, what we call the bespoke controllers macros. Okay. And now you get information on all 4 of those.
Right, okay.
So at any point, if you feed in something, you instantly get feedback. You see on the control.
All right.
So you do get information.
Yeah.
And we've used a bit display showing you so that when you're all the way at the bottom, it's at 0, and when you're all the way at the top, you're at maximum.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
So you talk about the WXYZ approach then. How does that, say, relate to, say, the Continuum or the Osmose? Is that's the same principle how those work?
Yes, yeah.
So is one refers to pitch, or are there those are 4 different sort of?
That's the standard mapping, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that. But it's so useful that as a starting point, it's a great place. And in fact, most things we use it for that. So W. Because we have a formula system using letters. We didn't want to use G for gate, so we used W for window. Okay. And so W is basically, if you look here, and I play a note, see the W gate is going true.
Oh yeah.
And then as I move down in pitch, this X control is changing. And then if I rock my finger back and forth, and here we go.
Yeah. You see
then I get the Y, and then finally the pressure's over there. So you get it's a representation of the 3-dimensional placement of a finger on a playing surface.
Right.
Yeah. So that's where it comes from, the Continuum.
Okay.
But of course, there's paradigms that can be mapped into standard MIDI keyboard control as well.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm guessing as well, one of the great things about having this shared platform with the Osmose and with the Continuum then is that the bank of presets is going to be just growing and evolving.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
How many presets are we at?
Well, currently in this unit, in the Continuums, we have about 300 it's closer to 400 presets. And these presets are actually, a lot of them, they're complete playing experiences on their own. And some people, they find maybe 8 or 9 presets that they love, and they just tend to learn to play them because there's so much depth in them. So, but we have a lot of different presets that we're starting, and then bringing the Osmose team on. They have a lot of excellent sound designers that are working hard on making specific Osmose presets, so we have all those to pull on too. And now we're getting into the Eagan Matrix, and so we've always been able to do audio processing, but that's actually going to be a major component that people are going to use, hopefully used with the Eurorack module version.
Right.
And so we're going to explore more of that. But yeah, so those presets will be all available.
So I'm guessing then that those presets, especially as you say that there's like each preset, there's such a lot of sort of possibility within the preset, being able to sort of get into that by using modules and all of the world of the world of modular, just the kind of crazy vastness of that.
Yeah.
This then lends itself very much to an experimental approach.
I hope so, yeah.
Right.
The thing with the Continuum and the Osmose is that if you think about them, they're kind of like players' instruments, and they're meant to, people use them for sound design, the Continuum. But what I think, a lot of the presets were done is just for more of a like you're imitating a particular instrument, and the pitch is mapped in that sort of way. And so all bets are off when you get into the Eurorack world, because it can do that, but it can do so much more. Yeah.
So can you put like audio rate modulations into these then, and sort of that will do crazy stuff to the sound?
So it could. The rates on all these inputs are control rates. So so you would and that's the design on the that we have inside the sound engine for efficiency, because it is running on a single large Shark DSP, but there's audio rate modulation within the matrix itself.
Gotcha.
So you can map things and control things. We have multipliers and that sort of thing that allow you to get those sort of effects, like remodulated effect, for instance, which goes into audio spectrum. Yeah. So, but it is meant to go with control rate, but it goes very, very fast too.
So do you think you could demonstrate then with the setup here, just some of the things that you've got going on?
Yeah, I just have a few simpler things, but you're going to get the idea here. So
okay.
Here we have, if I load this one, so this one called Hal Dreams. So this is an example of what would be a generative patch. So it's essentially made to create this environment that you could then post-process. There's no input. The module is just making sound on its own. Within the controls, I can remove the reverb, change the timbre, change the speed, and also the pitch area.
Ah, right. Oh yeah, so this is mapping to the WXYZ.
That's right. Yeah. So I should explain. Yeah. So what's happening here is that the this IntelliGel tetrapad, I've got it mapped in to control the 4 controllers. Yes. And so yes, you can. If I was setting up, I would do it this way. Using this interface. Okay. If I wanted to do. But when I want to interact with it, I use something like the tetrapad to do that control. Nice. And again, if you want to do something cyclical, like let's say I just plug in a now I'm modulating the rate of the reverb output.
So I'm assuming then when you get the module, then you get the editor and that's all, or is that an additional product?
No. It's all it's all free. It's really easy, nice if you make your software free, because you don't have to worry about copy protection or piracy or anything.
Okay, that's cool.
But that's not where the real value is. It's the nice thing is in the hardware. The editor's free, updates are always free, and we support our material as long as we can. Evolution happens, but we still have early 2000 continuums that we support. And Lippold, the inventor of the Continuum Fingerboard, his philosophy is that he wanted to make instruments that last a long time, and people devote a lot of time and hand them down. It was actually why in the original Continuums there was no display, because he didn't believe in displays because they're the things that go out.
They go out and they get updated.
He wanted his instruments to last. So we try to last, and in fact we have a couple of evolutions of the Shark DSP that we use in there, and we're still supporting the original Sharks.
Interesting. So I guess though now the software is running on these different platforms, the Osmose as well. That's going to kind of ensure that there's a wider user base, and thus heading into the future, more users, more presets, more.
It can attract people. I can understand why people, outside of the price. I understand, the Continuum, and it's not for everybody. It's when people approach me and I say, the Continuum, it's expensive, but that's not the expensive part. The expensive part is the time you're going to have to spend.
Yeah, right. Like any good instrument, to be fair, like a real instrument needs time investment.
Yes, I could buy a Stradivarius and it'd sound like shit.
Yeah, me too.
so it ain't the money.
Yeah.
It takes time, and that's so. Yeah, we don't make a Stradivarius, but we try to make the best possible thing, and we don't want to make something that kind of impresses you at first, and then you kind of hit these ends. We want to make things that are deep, and you're going to get enjoyment and discover things every day. And I think that's why certain players that only play 8 or 9 presets, that's what they discovered. They said, there's worlds in here that I can go through.
So just to focus and get good at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. So, in terms of preset management then, is there a limited amount of presets that you can store on there, and then you use the software as a kind of librarian, or is there space for more?
There's space to store 128 of your own presets, which can be completely unique designs or modifications of the system library. The system library, because of the Osmose and expanded, I think we have virtual space for maybe 5,000 presets. So currently there's 350. It's very easy to go through and peruse the library and go through categories and then load them up. We have the presets organized in banks, so you can have a particular set of presets for a gig or a song that you're working on and use them that way. And once you've used it, the memory's non-volatile, and it's there inside there. So you don't. Once you have it set up the way that you like to have it set up, you know, you just don't need the computer to go through that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great. Wow. So, I mean, in terms of availability then, obviously with the shortages that everybody's suffering from, that's kind of...
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to be ending. Yeah, we thought the chip shortage would have been gone, you know, like at the latest 6 months ago, but it seems to be going on. So in availability, I wish I could say it's available now. We have the firmware done. We've got the plates done. We've got the PCBs all done. It's a matter of populating them. So there's just a few components.
Okay.
But yeah, we've already got orders. We opened up for orders at the website. They just at the beginning of Superbooth, and
cool.
yeah, we started to see orders. That's great, and we already got pre-orders from the wonderful Alex for
Cool.
Andreas and gang, and you know, so we will deliver them as soon as possible. It's just hard to predict exactly when they're going to be.
I appreciate that. And the price?
$799 US.
Okay, so there's a lot of synth power there, and again, I guess you could just use just that and it'll work as a complete standalone sound module without the need for anything else.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's the same way that people use this as a standalone. As long as you have some sort of input device,
something to,
it doesn't take much to be an input device. Like, let me show you. Like, I can feed in an audio signal here.
Okay.
Let's go. I think this is. So this is just processing the audio input.
Yeah.
I've got a feedback control here. And now here I'm going to adjust the convolution body. And this one here is time.
Wow.
So that's the example of using it as an audio processor.
Wow.
Yeah.
The future is most definitely bright, though. This is a really exciting development.
Yeah.
Well, thank you ever so much for taking time to show us here.
Right.
Yeah, really fascinating and exciting.
Great.
And again, seeing it in these other products now, it's like, wow, what is going to happen in the future? I just know it's going to be good.
I love your enthusiasm. That's a good thing about you guys.
Thanks. But yeah.
So what we have here is I'm controlling MIDI. Using MIDI. It comes into the Eagan Matrix module through the MIDI in, and we treat a single channel device like this key step. We break it apart into channels and make it MPE-like. So it's like every note is on a separate channel.
Yeah.
You can also, at the same time, feed note ins through the WXYZ CV.
Okay.
So I have a Continuum MIDI with our connection to a micro CVC, which converts the note information into gate X, Y, and Z position on the instrument. So I can play the same voice, but it's polyphonic. And so I'm playing, at the same time I'm controlling a single synthesizer preset, but with two different devices. Inside the engine, you can specify sound design that's different between the two of them, so you optimize for whatever device you've connected to it with its sound design. Now, whether this is optimized or not, I don't know. This is a bagpipe that you can play.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Can I just see some of these strange annotations? So sometimes
yeah.
there, tremble, crucified.
Yeah. Lord.
Causes.
You always
Lord.
end with Lord, don't
Lord.
you? Yeah, so what I had done for a Express concert at Superbooth here is Rob and I did a performance piece at the end of our talk, and I manipulated and granulized recordings of this singer named Roland Hayes, and he said these phrases, and I mapped the surface of the Continuum MIDI to where the phrase was granulated within the morphology.
Oh, interesting.
And so this was to tell me when I got the vowels, you know. So you see here it's like crucified. I did it that way, and then, so each line of this little gospel piece are all these little things over there.
Okay.
It was a bit crazy,
right?
But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've been watching this all through this little feature now.
What the heck is
what
that?
the heck's going on? Okay, there's a little bonus, little bit on the end there. Thanks so much.
Okay, guys, thanks.